Good morning. So welcome to our 45-minute stretch and restore. This class has had a handful of different names. It's been called Slow Flow. It's been called Flow and Restore. And honestly, I just wanted it to be more of like a stretch and restore. And I guess a perk of owning your own business is doing whatever you want. So this is a class that just always feels good in our body, and it just is like what I think we all need more of. So I have a couple of blankets. This is almost kind of more of a kind of get whatever you can. I've got a bolster, blocks. So we'll take some nice long holds into our hamstrings, into our hips, and then we'll end with some really nice restorative postures. So the more pillows you have, bed pillows, couch pillows, blankets, beach towels, whatever you need. So we are actually going to get started in a forward fold, so seated forward fold. So what we'll do, I have really tight hamstrings. So what I'm going to do is almost roll this up. And again, you could use anything you've got just to place a little bit of support behind my knees. And then, and you never know how many props you're gonna need. So what I'm going to do is make a little bit of space in between my legs here. You know, all the things. And we want our body to be supported here. So we've got a handful of folks that are actually taking this or signed up for this class that are pregnant. And there's a hormone in your body called relaxin, which allows you to really open up, make space for a baby. But we want to be really mindful to not stretch too far. So this goes if you're had a baby and you're still nursing as well, that a hormone is still in your body. So we want to take it supported so we're not going to our full end range of motion. So what I'm doing is just kind of taking these blocks to bring my bolster a little closer to me, and I'm leaning over and I'm still realizing, okay, I need more support. So here's where that other blankie comes in. And what I'm going to do is just kind of move that flesh out underneath from the seat, and we'll lean it forward. And for some of us, we feel this in the low back. For some of us, we might feel it in the hamstrings. And it goes without saying, if there's another position or you need to move a little bit or adjust, once you get into the pose, you don't need to stay like totally still. You know, our bodies, our blood flow is still moving. Oftentimes I've heard during pregnancy that when you kind of start to slow down, that's when your baby gets the most active. So you might kind of just notice that as you settle in here. And folds are really, really great for just kind of symbolizing letting go of something, thoughts, feelings, emotionally, physically. There's a pretty big week of letting go for some things in our country, and I try to keep politics aside, but some big changes, regardless of whether you identify red or blue, big changes for our country. So we find gratitude for kind of fresh perspectives and new ideas. So let's let this fold kind of signify that letting go and signify that change. No real prescribed breath work in this class. It's just tuning into your inhales and exhales. A great strategy is where you feel tight, try to envision your breath going to that space. And arms might rest on the bolster. They might come down at your sides, or maybe come to rest on your shins. If you feel yourself holding on to some tension, sigh it out with your exhale. Always kind of physically, emotionally lets me release. When you're in a posture for a bit of time, you might notice the feeling that you could go maybe a bit deeper, or you could adjust those props just a tiny bit. That's gravity helping us out. Our body is lengthening, softening, kind of letting go. So you might adjust those props as you see fit. I brought my favorite book to class here. It's a collection of poetry from a woman named Morgan Harper Nichols. So as you settle in, I will read one of my favorite. Well, they're all wonderful, but this is the one that I kind of find myself coming back to. Hold tight to hope amidst all unanswered questions, for even in uncertainty, there is strength to be found, and grace will still abound in what you do not understand. Under blue skies, on cracked rocks, in dry heat, in desert land, grace is the hand that is never out of reach, reminding you you are not weak because you are lonely. And even if you have heard the word grace over and over again, and you think that you already know what it means, there is grace for that too, humbly reminding you of its endlessness and how much you need it when you might feel lost in the wilderness. So do not be disheartened when the landscape is working against you, and do not think that you have failed when you are not sure you will make it through. For this glorious, unmerited favor called grace will meet you exactly where you are, giving you peace amidst your restlessness and safety from alarm. We'll be here in this fold for about another minute. You might just take a little scan to see where you might be able to soften. About maybe 3 to 4 more breaths. Over your next few breaths, we start to just find a bit of movement. And just as slow and mindfully as we get into these postures, that's how we want to exit them as well. So you might move your hands a little bit closer to your body, slowly pushing in to lift the torso. And it is only natural to want to open after the fold, kind of open it back. So listen to what your body is craving here. You might bend into the knees, kind of lean back. Throughout this, when we take these longer holds, when we come out, we really want to listen to what our body is craving in those moments. So let's just kind of move these props off to the side. And maybe just take some windshield wipers of the knees. What we are going to take next is if you have a bolster or a pillow or some blankets that are rolled up, we're going to take it kind of across our bra line on the back. And I don't, Natalia, you'll definitely want to like put something in the back to prop up the head a little bit. Let's see. There you go. So And this won't be too much of a back bend. If you're feeling like crunchy in the low back here, you could even take a towel that's rolled up and just kind of sneak it underneath the sacrum and the seat. So that actually feels way better in my body. So I've kind of got this opening across the chest and the mid back. I've got blocks behind me. Some folks are okay really tipping that head back and opening up into the throat. It doesn't feel so good in my body. And I like, as I have a very tender low back, to keep my feet on the mat. For you, it might feel okay to extend your legs long, or another option, if you're looking for a little hip opener, is soles of the feet come together and the knees open up wide. That puts too much pressure on my low back, so I'm going to keep my feet on the mat. You could even rest your knees against one another as well. So really beautiful counter pose from our forward fold is this. Yes, it would be sort of a supported fish pose or a supported heart opener. And every single person's body is different. So you might need a little bit more support in different places than I do. So it's okay to take a minute or even longer to get settled into this pose, to feel it out. That's why it's so nice to have extra blankets and props nearby should you need a little bit more support. You might get there and realize you need more support. So that's what I'm doing here. There we go, that feels better. Just let the arms open up, shoulders kind of drop down towards the earth. I've got my palms up, so the tops of my arms are resting on the floor next to me on each side. Take some nice calm breaths, allowing ourselves to slow down, to kind of just be with our body and be with those thoughts that enter and exit our mind, be with our breath. I would make a bet that it is quite rare that we take 45 minutes to really just slow down and just kind of be with our bodies. And you might notice as you are here in this posture that it feels good to kind of deepen into it, or you can lessen the support, or just stay exactly where you are. We'll be here for about another minute and a half, 2 minutes. If the mind wanders, come back to even repeating inhale and exhale as you breathe in and breathe out. Try to soften these last moments of this posture. If you chose to extend your legs long or open the knees wide, I'll invite you to bend your knees and plant your feet on the mat. And maybe just take a few windshield wipers back and forth, just really, really gentle. And to come out of this, let's kind of roll onto one side and then just gently push our way up to a seat. And we'll come over to a tabletop. So you can kind of slide all the things out of the way. Just checking in to see what your low back, what your hips need in this moment. Taking some really organic movements. Lingering in a spot if that feels really good. I think when I decided to add this class to the schedule, it was kind of, other than the prenatal yoga class I teach on Saturdays, is the tail end of my teaching. And with a couple private sessions this week, it was up to like 10 classes. So that's why I added this class to the schedule, to really, because I don't know that I would honestly take the time to take 45 minutes of just nice slow stretching. Probably not.
I definitely appreciate it.
From this tabletop, we'll come into a supported child's pose. My ankles are a little sore, so here's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to take this blanket and kind of fold it up at the back of my mat, so my ankles will rest on top of that. Bring the bolster in. And you could, another really nice option, if you've got something that resembles a block, you can put one at the top to kind of create this little hole underneath your bolster so you're able to hug. And as if you're expecting and your belly's growing, you'll kind of move that support away from you to create some space for your baby. And I really like this option with the bolster kind of elevated at an angle. So one, if you're taking this with a bolster or a big pillow underneath, one facial cheek will come to that support. And if your knees are tender here, another great option is to roll up a blanket and put it behind your thighs or in between the backs of your thighs and your calves. That just elevates the hips a little bit to take the pressure out of the knees. So get curious about what supports you need in the supported child's pose. And I'll let you know when we're about halfway to rotate to the opposite facial cheek, just to even it out for our neck. Okay, just resting as you need. This practice of slowing down, for a lot of us that have that type A personality, that are go-getters and movers and shakers, it is really a challenge to kind of bring that all to a halt. But really just taking a bit of time helps us be that much more productive when we allow our body and especially our mind to just sort of chill out for a little bit. So if you took one facial cheek to your pillow or bolster, I'll invite you to gently lift the head. You might stay with the neutral neck, just gaze or resting your forehead on the bolster. And then take the opposite facial cheek, and we'll spend about a minute and a half or so here. This compression really, really wonderful for our hips. Good. Another 2 or 3 breaths here. And then you might start to slide your hands a little bit closer to your body. Push down onto the mat to lift your torso up. And if you've got stuff on the mat, move it off to the side. And just take movement as it feels good in your body. My body always wants to crave kind of opening up the hips. I might slide the hips or the knees back in a little bit, kind of coming through table to almost like a plank on knees. Going to come into a supported low lunge next. So we'll take that on the right side first. What I'm going to do is if you've got props that you want a little bit more support, I'm going to set my blocks here on the left side. I have super tight hips, so I need to bring stuff a little bit closer to me. So I'm bringing my blocks here and my bolster. I'm going to bring one of these blankets to support my back knee. And allowing my forearms to come down to the bolster. And this is a nice wide stance. So you've got your right foot kind of towards the outside edge of the mat. And you can keep your right foot on the mat, or you might drop the right knee open to take kind of this stretch in an external hip rotation. You might kind of work through both kind of right foot down, right knee open. But find a way to soften into this, to kind of take the support of your props or the mat. As we are here, we notice the opening that's happening. By all means, if it feels good, you can keep that torso lifted. And just try to soften those areas, whether your forearms or wrists, whatever's supporting you here in this lunge. Try to soften into the shoulders, soften into the jaw. Good. Take about maybe 4 to 5 more breaths here. Good. And slowly start to come up. What we will do is you can heel toe your right foot towards the center of your mat and just shift it back. We're going to take just a quick calf stretch here. You might reach for one of those blocks. Flex the toes on up. Feel the space in the back of the right leg open. Did a little bit of research about this. Last week we did a half pigeon into a quad stretch and it sent my hamstring into like a major cramp. So we're going to stretch the hamstrings first, and then after this cycle we will stretch our quads a bit. Good. So let's bring the right knee forward once again and just come back. Bring the right knee back to meet the left. And then shift the blocks or support or whatever you might have used over to the right side of the mat. Blanket supports the right knee if you need that, and help that left foot up. Grab a little drink of tea. And this side feels a lot more tender, so honor kind of the differences you feel between your left and your right side. Breathe into where you feel that tightness. And there's a lot going on here, that deep compression into the left hip, opening the front of the right thigh into the pelvis. Another few breaths. You might start to lift up the torso a little bit. And then we'll send the hips back to flex the left toes up, stretching into the calf, the hamstring. Good. So let's just bend into the left knee here. And what I'm going to do is bring my left hand to a block, and I'm reaching around for the right ankle and to stretch into the right quad here. Now we'll see if my little bit of research from last week, so that nice quad stretch. Good. You can release the right foot, and what we'll do is just bring the left knee back, right foot forward. Right hand is going to come to a block and reach back. Last week had that pretty significant glute, or it was almost hamstring butt cramp. So this feels a lot better today. All right, you can release that. What we're going to do is come down to a seat. And if you've got pillows, you might take them, or a bolster, take them behind you. What we're going to do is take a seated, kind of half reclined figure 4. So I'm going to take my bolster, and if you don't have all these props, you can lean against a wall, or you can take this on your back. Just coming to a seat here, and I've got kind of this right back behind me, and what I'm going to do is take my forearms to my bolster here. The bolster's snuggled up right to my back. I'm going to cross my right ankle above my left knee and scooting that left foot in. Now I'm feeling this nice deep stretch into my right butt cheek here. You might take, I always like to take some neck circles here. Just half, left ear to left shoulder, right ear to right shoulder. And trying to soften in as best you can. Again, you can, come down to your back. Or take this against a wall. Another option that I love is coming close to a wall with your feet facing the wall, coming down to your back, and then your left foot that's on the mat would actually go on a wall for the left shin to be parallel with the floor. And you can kind of determine how close or how far away you need to be. Generally, you're about the distance of your ankle to your knee away from the wall, maybe a little closer. Good. You might just take this figure 4 and sort of move it left and right. Just seeing how this changes this posture. It's a nice little kind of massage for the seat. Noticing if you're holding any tension anywhere in the body, to try to use your breath to let it go. Take another few breaths here. Slowing down our breath and slowing down our body has a direct positive effect on our central nervous system to calm it from that kind of fight, flight, freeze response that we find when we're kind of continually moving and amped up, and lots of projects, lots of things from one place to the next. So this practice is really, really wonderful to incorporate. When you're ready, bring that foot you had up down to the mat to meet the other. Just take some windshield wiper. Yeah, that's just what feels good in the body. And then setting that up on the other side. Each side, again, can't reiterate this enough, is just a little different. Every day is different. So settle in to this figure 4 on this side. Sending some deep breaths to where you might feel this. You might start to take that gentle sway side to side. Few more breaths here. When you're ready, bring that foot down to meet the other and take some windshield wipers. We're going to move into a supine twist. That can be as supported as you need. I'll show you a great option if you are looking for a little bit more support. If you're comfortable on your back, you can just take the knees off to one side. So what we do is take some blocks and elevate. We're going to take the bolster to our side body. And we just kind of, my blocks are about to tip over here. And taking one hand to one hand to the other. And you can keep knees stacked here, or you can keep bottom knee where it is and kind of scoot that back knee back for kind of two semi-right angles. This is called, it's a version of a twist called deer pose. If you're more comfortable taking a more traditional twist on your back or a seated twist, twists are a really great way to kind of wind down our practice and let go of any kind of residual junk stuck in our body. You could take this bolster at whatever angle or elevation feels best for you. We'll be here for maybe another minute or so. We'll come out nice and slow. So you might start to walk your hands a little closer to your body, push down to lift up, and check in with, sometimes it feels good to take a counter twist. So if we started on that left side, twisting towards the right, and we just kind of set up on the other side. If you're on your back, just take those knees to the opposite direction. If you're taking this supported twist, take the bolster off to the opposite side. Make sure it's nice and sturdy before you come on down. I think this has to be one of my most favorite poses. this variation of a deer pose. I have no idea why it's called a deer pose, but take some deep breaths to soften as best you can. And as we know that we're nearing the end of our practice, we do our best to not let our mind move to what's next. We continue to stay as present as we possibly can in tuning into our breath, tuning into the sensations in our body. Good. Maybe another minute or so here. Good. Slowly start to come on up. Take a bit of a counter twist if that is what your body calls for. And we will prepare for our final posture of class, which is our rest, our Shavasana. So you might take this reclined, you might take it on your back, you might take a bolster or a blanket underneath the knees, you might cover up with a blanket. No wrong choice. If you've got a bolster, you might want to try one of my favorite things. One time when I was in a class, an instructor came around and snuck 2 blocks underneath my feet. So I've got a bolster under my knees, and then my heels are supported, which feels really good. Maybe a little pillow or blanket behind your head. And we slowly surrender. If there's anything else you need, you might cover up with another blanket or just place it over your belly for a little bit of added weight. I invite you to take a deep breath in. Hold the breath at the top and a deep breath out. Soften, almost feeling like we are melting into our mat. To fully let go of any tension we have withheld in our body. Let it go. I will come back to our reading from today. And this is from Morgan Harper Nichols. All Along You Were Blooming is the title of the book. Hold tight to hope amidst all unanswered questions, for even in uncertainty, there is strength to be found, and grace will still abound in what you do not understand. Under blue skies, on cracked rock, in dry heat, in desert land, grace is the hand that is never out of reach, reminding you you are not weak because you are lonely. And even if you have heard the word grace over and over again, and you think you already know what it means, there is grace for that too. Humbly reminding you of its endlessness and how much you need it when you are lost in the wilderness. So do not be disheartened when the landscape is working against you. And do not think that you have failed when you are not sure if you will make it through. For this glorious, unmerited favor called grace will meet you exactly where you are, giving you peace amidst your restlessness and safety from alarm. If you are comfortable where you are at, feel free to stay. If you have things that are next on your schedule, kind of defeats the purpose to think about what's next on our calendar, right? But it is 8:15. So you can stay to end your practice in your Shavasana, or you might make your way up to a tall seat. And here we'll bring both hands over our heart space, dropping our chin to our chest. We find gratitude for slowing down, gratitude for the immense positive effects it has on our body and our mind. And taking what I hope is a nice calm body and mind into the remainder of your Friday and your weekend and the week ahead. So thank you for tuning in to our stretch and restore, whatever we call it. We're grateful for this slowing down. So we'll take one breath to close our practice. Full breath in and let it go. Hands join one another. Maybe rub the palms together, generate a little bit of heat. As always, thank you for joining. The light and the love in me sees and honors the light and the love in you. Namaste. Thank you for joining, Natalia.